Greetings, fellow Whovians, and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. I can't believe it's been 6 weeks already, but we are at the finale of Doctor Who Flux, Chapter 6, The Vanquishers. So how did it all wrap up? Please hit the subscribe button as I go through my spoiler talk review. And as aforementioned, this will contain spoilers. You have been warned. So for this spoiler talk, I'm just going to go through the highlights because I've still got to get my head around this episode. It definitely needs a rewatch, and it deserves a rewatch. So that's a little bit of a clue to how I felt about the Vanquishers Chapter 6 Doctor Who Flux finale. So I'll start off with how the Doctor kind of got out of the Flux and kind of solved most of the problems here. So she ends up being splintered into three. So she's kind of shifting through different realities. So you've got the Doctor on the division ship with the Ood, and then you have the Doctor with reuniting with Yaz and Dan and Jericho in the Williamson tunnel, and then you've got, excuse me, the Doctor, I think, hang on, just got to get this right. The Doctor with Azure and Swarm, and obviously, with the Fob Watch. So at first I thought, oh, is it going to be a complete sort of copycat of the Star Trek Next Generation finale, All Good Things? But actually, it was more a bit like All Good Things meets the Three Doctors, because we do get two of the Doctors sort of merging together and to sort of help the Doctor stuck in the division space station. So we kind of have a bit of a two Doctor-ish, but it's all the same Doctor. So something that we've not really had before. We've had obviously the first Doctor meeting the 12th Doctor, but to have 13 Three Doctors is a bit unprecedented and pretty cool. Whilst they're sorting that out, we have the Sontarans, and they were absolute badasses in this chapter. So the Sontaran commander sends out a signal to the Daleks and the Cybermen in a sort of a friendship peace alliance to protect them from the Flux. They've said, come to Earth, we've got the Lupari shield ship bubble going around Earth, so come here and protect yourselves from the Flux, and we can all live in peace. So the Daleks and the Cybermen agreed, but this is one big ruse, because the Sontarans' plan is to basically send the Lupari ships away, wipe out the Daleks and the Cybermen, and then rebuild the shield ready to protect the Sontarans from the Flux. So it is one big power shift for the Sontarans to be the most dominant species in the universe. And that's something that we've not really seen with the Sontarans before. And I really like that they've kind of put them on a level playing field, as you were, with the Daleks and the Cybermen. And I also liked that when the Sontaran commander, I can't remember his name, I do apologise, sent out this message. Again, a bit like what I said with Chapter 3, it would have been cool if we got more different species in there, like the Draconians and the Sycorax and so forth, that the commander said, but not the Routons. Oh no, you are the scum of the universe. You are not invited. So I did like that little reference in there. Whilst the Sontarans execute this master plan near enough, they also told Kavanister, who was captured by the Sontarans, and I think it was, again, the Sontaran commander, said, well, how are you controlling the Lupari ships? And they reply, well, the commander replies, because I've sent all the rest of your species out into space. They are now dead. I've wiped out all of the Lupari except you. And that was gut-wrenching. Absolutely mind-boggling and monstrous. So not only poor Kavanister has to deal with the annihilation of his entire race, him and the Doctor, or part of the Doctor, have a little chin wag whilst they've been captured by the Sontarans, and Kavanister kind of opens up to the Doctor that they were former companions, but he can only say so much, because the division implanted like this poison capsule in his brain that if he actually speaks out the full truth, that this poison will be unleashed and he will die. So yeah, I really do feel sorry for Kavinister in this story, in this chapter. He just gets an absolute beating in this one. We also have Vinda and Diane trapped inside Passenger, and I'll get to Diane a little bit later in this review, but I might as well mention that here that Vinda, nothing against Jacob Anderson at all. I just felt the character of Vinda and the whole story arc as a whole, just it was kind of the weakest part in Doctor Who Flux. Yes, he gets reunited with Belle, and he does get his revenge on the Grand Serpent, but it just felt a little flat to me. Just I wasn't that engaged with Vinda as I was with the rest of the characters in this story and in this chapter. I'll just quickly speak about Joseph Williamson in this part of the review, and he had a nice quick wrap up, really. He was sort of like kind of got vindicated for being the Mad Mole, I think he was nicknamed, because of these tunnels. But actually, if it wasn't for him, then they couldn't meet up in the way that they did. So the Doctor, Yaz, Kate Stewart, Jericho and Claire, they all managed to meet up in this tunnel to sort of start off this grand scheme of defeating the Sontarans, getting rid of the Flux, and obviously dealing with Swarm and the Ravagers. So the Doctor and the gang, as I said earlier, they do reunite. They all sort of meet up, and they all pretty much have the happy endings, apart from Jericho. He has to sacrifice himself for reasons. Again, can't remember why. Definitely have to rewatch this. But he kind of gets the last laugh for the Sontaran. He helps defeat one of the Sontaran commanders, and I just felt that Jericho's departure was a little bit underwhelming, considering Kevin McNally put in a lot of great performances from chapters 4 and 5. I really enjoyed his character. Really enjoyed the interactions between Yaz and Dan, especially in chapter 5. So yeah, to have a bit of a sort of a quick death goodbye like that just was a little bit underwhelming. And Yaz as well, I think she would have been a bit more upset than what we saw on screen. But I don't think it's going to be the goodbye of Jericho. Hopefully he finds a way of escaping his death sentence and lives happily ever after, and we get to see him again in Doctor Who as a TV series. But definitely there is lots of room for Jericho, Yaz and Dan's adventures in 1904 for Big Finish Audio. So I hope it's not the last time we see Jericho and Kevin McNally. The one character that I was really intrigued with in tonight's chapter was Diane, Dan's kind of love interest. And it was very, very odd. In a good way to a certain point. So she's kind of figured out how to survive inside Passenger when her and Vinda was trapped, and kind of figured out how to escape when the Doctor arrived in the TARDIS, and basically she gave the Doctor the idea to use Passenger to absorb the Flux, which again wasn't like you could have figured it out yourself, to be fair. But what I found most intriguing when she was sort of giving off all this information, I thought, is she someone else? Is she like the Rani or even the Master in Disguise or something? I don't know. She was just kind of like, it was a massive character shift. But then it kind of got shifted back because Dan was obviously so glad and relieved that Diane is back, but she kept saying to him, well, you was late, you never turned up for that drink. And he was saying, it wasn't my fault. Look what's kind of happened. And towards the end of the episode, at the end of the chapter, Dan goes back into the exhibition center and starts talking about Joseph Williamson, and then Diane comes back out. So it all goes back to normal. And Dan invites her for that drink again, and she just says, "No, not yet, but maybe another time." I think that was to signify that all what she's been through throughout the whole Flux journey was too much for her at this moment in time, and she needs a bit of a mental sort of rest from it all. And fine, but I thought she was a bit more. I thought it was going to be something more. I thought she was going to be like a Rani or another character or something like that. So again, hope there's more to Diane than this. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird sort of shifting of characterizations just to fit the story. I don't know. And then there's Swarm and Azure and their savior, Time. So there's a moment where Swarm and Azure, they're with the Doctor. They're pretty much tormenting the Doctor at this point, or this reality version of the Doctor. And they're basically their goal was to entrap the Doctor in this continual loop to watch the universe burn, just basically on repeat, just gets wiped out over and over again. Kind of basically that's what the Doctor did to them. And again, it wasn't overly explained in this chapter, and again, maybe a little bit underwhelming with their characters, with the build up that they've had. So as I said earlier, they meet up with Time, and they offer the Doctor to her with the fob watch as well. And Time goes, "Well, great, but you failed in your mission because the other sort of splintered Doctors, they've kind of sorted that out, that the universe doesn't burn because the flux was absorbed by the by Passenger. So you guys are out. So Time wipes out, as far as I'm aware, wipes out Swarm and Azure. Azure was still holding the fob watch, tormenting the Doctor with it. She drops it, and the Doctor picks it up. And the Doctor was like, "Well, is it my time then? And are you just gonna wipe me out?" And then Time went, "No, no, I'm not, because your time is coming to an end. There will be no more regenerations, but I'm going to let this play out yourself." So it kind of at least does the continuation for the next 3 specials that we're going to get. And what about the Grand Serpent, you might ask? Well, again, it wasn't overly explained. I think you had to kind of read in between the lines, or unless I'm missing something. But I think that the overall sort of story arc was he's helping out the Sontarans, and then he's just going to double cross the Sontarans. But it doesn't quite come to fruition, as you've seen in this chapter. But he does have a great moment with the Doctor when he's tormenting the Doctor and torturing the Doctor for information. It kind of psychologically went into a role reversal, but it was a good way to kind of at least figure out who he was, in a sense. The dialogue was very rushed at that point though, but I did like that scene nonetheless. So if anything, I want to sort of go back and rewatch that scene and just work out what kind of was all said in that scene. The double cross doesn't happen for the Grand Serpent. He has this showdown with Vinder and Kate Stewart. They basically put him at gunpoint at the Williamson sort of tunnel points, and Vinder says, "Go to door number 7 because you are going to be exiled like you exiled me." And that's kind of what happens. He is just stuck on this rock in the middle of space somewhere. I feel this is Jodie Whittaker's best performance to date. I felt like the shackles were loosened. I felt like in previous stories, I think there was a bit of a reserved, not performance set per se, but I think because of the story and the script that she was given, it felt like it was more of a reserved performance. But here, I felt that she got many of her personality and characteristics, with her interacting with herself. That's not an easy thing to do, and I think she did that a bit longer than, I'd say, where David Tennant, when it was the 10th Doctor meeting the 10th Doctor hybrid. Here it was like the same characters but sparring with each other. I thought that was really, really good, and I really enjoyed the scene between the Doctor and Yaz. So all's well as it ends well. In this chapter, Dan gets a little bit rejected by Claire, and he rejoins Team TARDIS, and the Doctor goes and offers him a room. So he goes off and does that, and then the Doctor and Yaz has this heart-to-heart moment. The Doctor apologizes to Yaz for keeping her out, not telling her what she was doing in terms with trying to find out information from Gavinister and the Division. And you kind of get this, are they going to say I love you moment? It felt like sort of fan fiction coming true. It was getting a bit sort of tense and a bit, pulling on the heartstrings. But then Dan interrupts because he couldn't find his room. So, ooh, and then obviously Yaz had to show him around. But you get this tearful sort of moment from the Doctor. Again, great performance by Jodie, and then the adventure goes on. But it's an interesting dynamic. I can't deny it. I'm more for the platonical relationships with the Doctor and companion. If you do check out my Christmas Invasion review that I've just posted up last week, I wasn't a big fan of the romance between the Doctor and Rose. It, wasn't my. I get it. I totally get it, but maybe just not really for me. But I am interested in this. Would they really push the boat? Will they go and push that envelope, or whatever that saying goes? Will they push it that far? And I'll be interested. I'll definitely be interested. It won't be a oh hell no, don't go down that road for me. I would be interested, especially if Yaz stays on when the Doctor regenerates. It'll be a very, very interesting dynamic to see in Doctor Who. So, what about this chapter? I thought it was good. I can't deny it. I was I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to watch it again. But it's not a perfect 10. There is some problems. Mainly the sort of the exits of Jericho, Swarm, and Azure and Grand Serpent. Grand Serpent can always come back, so that's not a major problem really. But Azure and Swarm, I think they were the ones that kind of got sacrificed the worst. And in the grand scheme of things, I can see why, but because of the build-up that they had, it just, and all the sort of like, who are they? Is it the Master's children? And all these theories, it just didn't really come to anything, because time was the bigger sort of bigger baddie in this sort of picture. And as I said earlier, time will return, and we don't know who time is either. Again, I thought it was going to be Omega when there was dropping hints about antimatter. It could be. We again just going to have to wait and see. I'm still also not sure about the Sontarans' new weakness being introduced in this. Not only we have the probic vent, but now chocolate. Chocolate, they are addicted to sweet and sugary snacks. I'm not sure about that. You're going to have to let me know in the comments. But on the whole, I really enjoyed this chapter. I am going to give it a TARDIS rating of 7.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed the sub-characters in the story. Good to see Kate Stewart back. I think really Kate Stewart should have been in the first season of Doctor Who, season 11, for Jodie's introduction. But I'll talk on that in a future review. But the main takeaway is Jodie Whittaker's performance for me. I thought she was brilliant. It was her best to date. And I felt that Chris Chibnall has played the biggest get out jail free card that you can ever play, because we still have the fob watch. The Doctor still tempted by having all these deleted memories. You know, is she going to open up that watch? Not at the moment. She opened up the TARDIS, dropped it in there, dropped it in the heart of the TARDIS console, and basically said to the TARDIS, I want you to bury it deep. I don't want you to show me it unless I really, really want to. So the temptation has gone away, but it's a good sort of, like I said, get out of jail free card, because Chibnall knew that the Timeless Child storyline didn't go as well as maybe he hoped for. You know, there was a lot of backlash, but this is a sort of a perfect sort of ending. So you got two choices. You can either bury it or give it to Russell T Davies or another showrunner to open it up again, should they choose to. Or Chibnall might pull another swerve, maybe in the final episode of the 13th Doctor's tenure, and open it all up again, because there's still lots of answers to be had out there. We still got the 14th Doctor. I'm sure we're going to get a return of the Master. Sorry, not 14th Doctor, the Fugitive Doctor. We also got the Master to play with. Yeah, I felt that he's pulled it out of the bag. Looking forward to seeing what happens on New Year's Day. We still don't have a title yet for that story. We saw the Daleks are going to come back. Of course, it's going to be the Daleks. But yeah, what title is it going to be? Let me know in the comments below. It's got to be something beginning with R, because we've had Resolution and Revolution of the Daleks, but we've already had Revelation and Remembrance. So what are we going to have? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the Vanquishers. Did you enjoy this season finale? Did it tick all the boxes for you? I'm really interested to see your thoughts on this chapter. And also, what title, if it hasn't been spoiled already, what title will you give for the New Year's Day episode? I'll love to see your ideas. Next time on Timey Wimey Review, my festive specials continues with the 10th Doctor story, The Runaway Bride. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. And as a good doctor once said, keep going, stay safe.